Welcome, everyone, to Missouri Valley Conference Katz Chats. Pleased to be joined by Belmont's Casey Alexander, won 6 of the last 7, right on the heels of Bradley. I mean, did lose to Bradley, but Bradley is still within striking distance. We still have about, 5 or 6 weeks to go. With 4 double-figure scores, but then we get a guy like Drew Charnowski who comes off the bench and scores 20, who's averaging 6. There seems to be great balance with this group. What do you have to say about where you guys are?
Yeah, I do like that part of our game offensively. It's the strength of our team is a lot of versatility on that end of the floor and a lot of guys that can impact the game. We've probably had maybe 6, 7 guys that have scored 20 or more at some point in time this season. And so I like that part of it. Naturally, I haven't said anything about the defensive end yet. That's where we have our greatest room for growth. It's probably what excites me the most, honestly, about the back half of conference play is how much more potential I think this team has, especially if we can close the gap on the defensive end.
So, as I said, I mean, outside of Bradley right now, which is starting, them and Drake have started to create a tiny bit of distance. It still feels like, 1, 2, 3, 4 seeds are up for grab here in the final 5 weeks. So, improvement on the defensive side. How do you feel overall, this mindset of this group for the stretch run?
Yeah, I feel good. I think regardless of what team you're coaching in the Valley at this point in time, we're at the halfway mark, and the real separation is going to come, based on who can just literally grind it out and be consistent from game to game at this time of the year when it's always the toughest, and perhaps even when there's more on the line. It's just really a test of will and to some degree. And I think experience, maturity, toughness, guys that have been around for a while, those things should all help. But in this league, as in most leagues, they're just, if you don't play well, you're not going to win. So that's exactly what I mean when I say, whoever can be the most consistent will find a way to separate themselves.
So to that point, look, I think all of us that go through this, from my side, from your side, when you get to late January, you get a little bit of a wall here. You got to power through into February, then things start to get really exciting, into the postseason. How have you managed in your coaching career, whether it's an assistant or a head coach, this sort of it's cold everywhere. Everyone's been going really now since the summer.
Yeah.
How do you manage this sort of middle part of the winter time before everyone's getting excited about potential postseason?
Yeah, honestly, it all changed for us when we joined the Valley, because it's, in the OVC, as good of a league as that was, when we played 20 games in the OVC, the threat of losing any of those 20 was not nearly as high. And so it's taken a different, I worry less about standings. I worry more about just what's right in front of us, one game to the next. And that's coach speak at all times, but it really is the reality of going through this league. I mean, there just aren't gimmies. I look at the schedule, for Wednesday's slate of games, and I say, man, that's a good game. That's a good game. And they could lose that one. And then you turn around on Saturday and it's the exact same. There's 3, 4, 5, even 6 games sometimes where, they may not be toss-ups, but you could envision anybody winning and anybody losing. And so it makes more sense not to get too far ahead of yourself and just stay in the moment and see how that pans out over the long haul.
But also, at what point do you start to manage the minutes in practice and what you're doing to adjust to make sure that you're elongating this stretch of the season and not wearing your guys down?
Yeah, fair question. We're already doing that. It's really my philosophy year around is, what is the appropriate amount of work for the season that we're in, and always thinking about the longevity piece of it. I feel like that was one thing I was really lucky with working for Coach Bird for so long. I feel like he was genius with that approach. His teams going back forever, I felt like we're hungry and ready and excited about the end of the season, avoided burnout and injuries and everything else that can come with a long, hard, arduous season.
You guys have been you've had a seamless transition into the Valley. Why do you think that is?
Easy for you to say.
Well, I mean, look, the record speaks for it. I mean,
Yeah.
you haven't been at the bottom. You've
Yeah,
been
no, you're right. Yeah,
you've been in
we've been
contention.
top half,
Yeah.
and we've held our own. And I'm proud of that. You know, I think it's really a testament just to Belmont and everything that we have going for us. We continue to build it with the right kind of people and the culture that's always made Belmont good. But what we have here as far as Nashville itself, our campus community, the community, the people that are in the program, that's what is sustaining, and that's what will always give Belmont a chance to be successful. And that's probably what's carried us definitely more than the head coach has.
One other thing that um, I'm curious how you handle this. I mean, we've seen this, whether it was Southern Illinois, you've now got a player, former player who's having a great year at Maryland. How do you balance, like, as long as we have them, maybe if it's a 4-year guy versus, freshman, sophomore, if they put in their time, they contributed, and now we hear the Belmont name, at a Power Four school on that transfer. Like, how you balancing, like, that you're maximizing the person while you have them.
Yeah, it's ever changing, but I think the more it goes on, the less I worry about what's going to happen next. You know, I mean, it literally is, the only thing I can control are the 16 guys on our roster this season and trying to have them and help Belmont have the best season that we can possibly have. You know, I think it's made it more important than ever to really focus on giving the players you have a great experience, and staying in the moment. Sometimes those guys, we lost three all conference players last year. Jacoby Gillespie goes to Maryland. He's playing great. Malik Dia goes to Ole Miss. He's playing well in some games and not so well in others. Cade Tyson's went to North Carolina and he's hardly playing. I mean, it's going to be different for everybody. I don't know what our off season is going to entail this year, but I believe in Belmont. I think this is a good example. We lost all 5 starters from last year's team and some really good players. But I think we've got a good team, and I think we can win games.
And to that point, finally, as I said, you've won 6 of 7. Uh, is right now, you mentioned defense. Is that what the key is to continue this streak going forward? And if so, what must you tweak defensively?
Yeah, well, we can't do anything significant if we're not a lot better on the defensive end than we have been. And we have a long way to go. And it's a little bit of everything. I mean, I think it's perplexing, honestly, because we're not doing anything that's a lot different. We're just not getting the results. And we've never been, I don't ever get calls from clinics asking if I'll come talk about our defense. It's always our offense. But I think it's a little bit unfair because I even looked at it earlier this morning. Both years in the Valley so far, prior to this one, we finished in the top half of the league. I think we were 3rd or 4th last year defensively. But right now we're 10th out of 12. And so it's effort, it's understanding, it's toughness, it's grittiness, it's consistency, it's preparedness, it's you name it. All those things need to be better for us to be better on that end of the floor.
Well, Casey, appreciate your time. I think we fully expect Belmont to be in the mix in that chase for top 3 finish come late February.
I hope you're right. Thanks.